welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm Andrew Kavanaugh. I want to say thank you for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Today we're going to be talking about a movie that came out just a couple weeks ago. This actually came out the same day as Cool Hand Luke, and I reviewed that last week on the channel, and I had to review this one. This is a film that, again, is just one of these like fantastic movies all around. It is a perfect film noir film, a perfect detective film. It really just embodies that whole genre kind of perfectly. I mean, it just does everything right. And that is, of course, The Maltese Falcon, starring Humphrey Bogart and Mary Astor, along with a bunch of other fantastic actors. Peter Lorre plays an amazing part in this as well. I mean, John Huston doing the screenplay and directing this really cemented himself as one of the great directors of the 20th century. I was curious to see how this was going to fare on 4K. This is the all-new 4K disc. I was really curious to see how this was going to fare because a lot of other films that I've seen in 4K that are black and white films have been actually surprisingly outstanding. Citizen Kane was really good. Even better than that was the new 4K of Casablanca that came out last year. Really mind-blowing stuff. Those are really two big examples. So I was really curious to see how the Maltese Falcon would hold up on 4K, especially with the HDR10 and everything like that. And thankfully, I'm glad to provide you the information here that the transfer is really, really good. The transfer is damn near perfect. And I will say that comparing this to the older Blu-ray, this is a transfer that really stands out in terms of highlights and the lowlights, the shadow detail, the blacks and everything else. It's really, really impressive. It kind of looks like a completely new movie. I've seen this movie quite a few times, and I think it's amazing when you can revisit a movie that came out in 1941. And it's just incredible that this movie looks better now than it probably did when it came out in the theaters almost 90 years ago. That's really impressive. That is really, really impressive. Now, a little thing that may sound kind of funny is like, well, what's the big deal? Why would I want to buy a movie in 4K Ultra HD that's just black and white? And I kind of tend to put this answer in all of my reviews when I review a movie that is black and white. There is more than one shade of black and white in film. It's a really interesting thing. When you get into the HDR, when you get into that high dynamic range, the whites can be very, very bright. They can be dimmer. They can almost look grayish at times. And you now have the ability to get a differential of things, clothing especially. You can really see the difference between darker and lighter colored clothing. What could be a blue shirt now looks like a slightly different shade of white in the film. It's an interesting thing to see. The dark scenes, and there are quite a few darker scenes in this film, in other words, like dimly lit or like nighttime scenes, they look substantially better now. Whereas before, you couldn't really differentiate maybe like a dark shadow versus a dark room. You can kind of see that now. You can see a shadow in a dimly lit room. You can see the differences, and it's really impressive. I mean, it is kind of mind-blowing when you see the detail of someone's face, even though it's a black and white film and the person can just barely be seen, but you can still make out facial details, and it's kind of amazing. It really is an amazing watch. The black levels on this disc are basically perfect. There is really no issues with them at all. Again, it reveals more about the film now, and it really provides this heightened detail that we never saw before, and detail's big in this film. You can really see like little fibers on suit jackets. You can see like little details on Humphrey Bogart's hat. You can see that it's again, you can see like creases in the brim of his hat, and it's amazing. It's really amazing. The most incredible thing to me was there is a shot where one of the actors has a Colt 45, a 1911, in his hand, and it's facing this way, and you can actually see the Colt insignia and the print on the slide of the pistol now. It's really amazing. It is really, really mind blowing. And that's the kind of thing why I love watching older films in this new format. Well, not really new format, but in this cutting edge format, because this is possible now. You can get that level of detail out of a movie that is over 80 years old. It's amazing. It's an absolutely amazing experience. And all throughout the movie is like that. The movie actually gets incredibly bright sometimes, too. There are some exterior shots of San Francisco, and it is blindingly bright. And I was very impressed with that because I didn't recall that from any other version of the film. The visual detail of the entire film has been punched to like 11. It's really, really an impressive thing. The other big thing with this is the fact that there is a huge mitigation of film grain. The last time I saw this film, it was a fairly grainy picture. And now, again, there's nothing wrong with film grain. I have nothing against it. There are a lot of my favorite films that, again, you're going to see really thick grain on the film. Die Hard being one of them. The 4K for Die Hard, there is some really, really heavy grain in that film. And as much as it can be distracting at times, I understand the dangers of mitigating film grain. A while back, a long time ago, they did a Blu-ray of Predator. 20th Century Fox did the Blu-ray, and that is like hands down the most egregious use of DNR. It's funny because the other one is Terminator 2. The 4K of Terminator 2 is just as bad at times, not the whole thing, but like 80% of it is. And when you remove that film grain, you remove detail from the picture. It's almost like you're putting wax over it sometimes. And everybody loses facial features, details are blurry and lost and smudged, and it's really bad. With this, thankfully, Warner Brothers was able to mitigate the grain in the picture to the point where it's barely noticeable. I mean, it's there, but it's such a fine layer of grain. I would say it's minuscule, honestly, and it just looks amazing. It really looks crystal clear all throughout. And again, I hate to say it for the third or fourth time or whatever, but for a movie that is over 80 years old, this is a technical marvel, okay? This is incredible. In the world of film, when film degrades and you start to lose elements, it's a very hard thing to try to get back. But they did it with this. They did a great job, and hats off to Warner Brothers or whoever was in charge of the restoration. They did a phenomenal job. It's an amazing picture throughout, and incredible. Now, in terms of the sound, this one here does also have a 2.0 DTS HD Master Audio Mono. And much like the mono mix for Cool Hand Luke, they decided to split the audio to two channels to make it like a fake stereo. I know a lot of people do not like that. I will say, though, this really sounded good. This sounded really good. The music sounded fantastic. The dialogue was crystal clear. Sound effects, even though there's not a whole lot of them, they sounded original. It wasn't like they redid the sound effects or changed things out. It's all the original audio, just split to two channels. And honestly, I had no issue with it. It sounded very, very good. It was not, mitigated in any way by the channel separation. It was just kind of amplified. And honestly, I kind of prefer that now. When you work with just that single channel, sometimes things can get overlapped. Sometimes you lose the music when someone's talking. It can kind of be a hard thing to juggle. With the 2.0 mono, it really shines, and there's a lot of talking in this film. It's mostly talking, and everybody's voice sounded great. It was just a really well done sound mix. I had no complaints about it at all. That's pretty much all there is to say about that. There's a commentary by Humphrey Bogart biographer Eric Lax. And on the Blu-ray, there is a ton of special features, making of documentaries, blooper reels, makeup tests, trailers of all different Humphrey Bogart films. There's a newsreel, just a ton of different cartoons that are on here. There's just a lot of stuff. There is a ton of stuff, and there's also 3 radio show adaptations of the Maltese Falcon, and 2 of them are actually featuring the movie's original stars, and another one has Edward G. Robinson. What a name that is. But another fantastic actor from his time. But it's really wild to hear all that stuff. So you do get a ton of stuff in here. It also does come with a digital code that redeems in 4K. And I got to say, this is another great release from Warner Brothers. I mean, they really are knocking it out of the park here, and I highly recommend it. So if you do want to pick up the Maltese Falcon, check the description below for a link. You can use that link. It leads to Amazon. It does help me out here on the channel, provides a little kickback to me, and it's greatly appreciated. I don't get sent any movies from Warner Brothers. I bought these with my own money. So again, I really, appreciate any kind of help that can be given. Another big help would be to hit that thumbs up button if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel so you can keep seeing my reviews. As soon as they come out, you get notified if you hit that little bell. It all helps me out here a lot. We just surpassed over 2,160 subscribers recently, so we're going to keep the train rolling. We're going to try to get to 3,000 by the end of the year. That's my big goal. If I can surpass that, that would be my dream. That would be incredible. So, as always, I want to say thank you for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Please stay safe and take it easy.